Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today I thought it would be fun to make a tier ranking list, and I needed a while to figure out about what, and then I came up with something. A tier list with all the books I have ever read. And maybe you can guess that might take a while, so let's jump right in.
1, 2, 3, funk it!
Let's start. First up, we have Die wilden Hühner. I think in English it's called The Summer Gang or something like that. Obviously, that's a book I read in my childhood, and I think I liked it, but I can't really remember. Another one, also from my childhood, is called something like Knickerbocker Bande. It's a children's book again, and again, I can't really remember. Then we have Tape by Stephen Canton. I read that as a teenager, and I remember the concept, but I have no idea what happened in the book. But I think I liked it, or maybe I didn't even finish it. I'm not sure. So, again, I can't remember. Then we have Surviving Suicide by Akana, and there's not much to say about it, because I just want you to read it yourself. Then we have We All Looked Up, and again, I don't remember as much. I remember more than in the other ones. It's about, I think, 5 or 6 teenagers. It's about a group of teenagers, and the world is ending because something out of space is going to hit the Earth. And I was very invested in the story, and I might not remember everything, but I do remember the end, and I also remember that I liked it. So, after that we have Kalt by Eric Berg. I don't think there's an English version of that. It is a thriller. I don't completely remember what it's about. It's set somewhere in the snow, and it's about a girl. I think she's in a camp, and there's a killer, and she met a boy there. And I think that description was already enough to have you guess who the killer is. But back then I was a little bit more stupid and was surprised about that. So I guess I liked it back then. I wouldn't like it now, I think. Then we have Poetic Mind by Fake Maggie. It's a poetry collection. I think it's part German and part English. And I do follow her on Instagram, and I like what she posts, or I like a lot of her poems. But for some reason, I started this book 2 times already, I think, and I never finished it. But I do want to finish it, so I'm not giving up yet. Then we have Chick, and we had to read that for school. And I was that child that always read what was assigned to read in school, and I very often was the only person that read what was assigned in school. But yes, this book is about 2 guys that go on a road trip together, and I thought this book was fine. It also made me realize that I like road trip books, but I think it could have been even better. Then, I hope this reaches her in time. That is a poetry collection again, and I remember liking it, but I'm not sure how much I liked it. Did I love it or did I like it? I think I loved it, because out of most of the poetry I read, I think that was one of my favorites, so I think it should go into I Love You. Then we have Fremd by Podzinski and Strobel, again a German book, and again a thriller that I did not like as much as I could have, but I already was smart enough to realize it right away. It's gonna go in, it had potential, but was meh. After that we have Die längste Nacht by Isabel Abedi, not sure how to say her name. Again, a German book, and again, I don't completely remember. I know it's about a girl who has memories, but she isn't sure if they are real or not, or something in that direction. And then they go on a vacation and she meets a boy and he somehow shows her things out of her memory. Something in that direction. As I said, I don't really remember that much, but I think that I liked it. Then we have Nocturnal by Wilder. Again, that's poetry. And I did like it, but I don't think I loved it. Then we have Monsieur, Ibrahim and the Flowers of the Quran. Again, a school book. And this book was confusing. It had a confusing beginning, a confusing middle, and a confusing end. The end was actually so abrupt that I thought my copy missed some pages, but it didn't. And maybe that's a little bit harsh, but I think it's going into how dare you kill a tree, because I learned absolutely nothing and it felt like a waste of time and a waste of paper. Then I also read The Silent Patient, a thriller, and the synopsis already spoiled what would happen. I thought there would be a twist, or at least a more interesting twist, but there wasn't. So it has to go into it had potential, but was meh. I think that book is the definition of that. Then I read The Awful German Language by Mark Twain, and honestly I couldn't agree more, because German truly is awful, and I'm not sure where to put it. It was fun. Yes, it was fun, but where do I put fun? My battery of my camera just died, so that's why the quality just got worse, because now I'm filming on my laptop, but I hope you don't mind. It's about the books, not about me. So, where do we put fun? I think I'm gonna put it in I Like You, I think. Because yes, I did like it. Okay, next book. Skin, Bones and Too Much Love. That's poetry. And I did like it. Did I love it? I know there's one poem in particular that haunts me because I think it's so beautiful. And I think alone for that poem, I'm gonna put it into I Love You. Then Macadam by Jean Dorillon. I'm not sure how the author is named. I'm also not sure if I ever finished this book. I think I haven't, so it would have to go into DNF because I did not finish, because I did not fancy it. Then we have Elena's. Again, I'm not sure if I read it, but I think I did. I think I remember too much for not having read it, but I can't remember a lot, so we will put it there. Then, Self-Love Poetry by Melody Godfred. This book, or these kinds of books, aren't my cup of tea, so I will put it in It Had Potential but was meh, but I'm not that sure about the potential. It just was motivational quotes copy-pasted from the internet into this book, it feels like. So there's that. Then this book, Why We Broke Up. I think I started it 3 times already and I never finished it, but I really do want to read it. Maybe I just need to start from the beginning and give it a go again. But I'm not sure when it's gonna happen. Then, Morgen ist leider auch noch ein Tag by Toby Katze. And I really hated this book. But I got really far into it, considering how much I hated it. This book is about depression, and it also is kind of a memoir, because the author is writing about himself and his depression, but all this book did was make me depressed. Although I already was depressed, so don't know how that happened. Did not finish, not sure if I ever will. Bittersweet by Tammy Fiore. That is poetry, and it's not that good of poetry. But again, I already talked about this book in another video, and the author isn't English, but the book is English. And again, I don't know, should you publish a book if you aren't that good in English, or should you just leave it and do something else? I'm just gonna say it had potential, but we know how I feel about it. Beast Mode 1 and 2 by Reina Wegberth. I liked that. I bought the first book thinking it was a standalone, and I was so excited about the story. I even had theories about what will happen next. And then it just ended and I was confused until I realized there's a second book. And I tried to get my hands on the second book as quickly as possible. And I think after 3 days I got the second book and read it as fast as I could. And I do like both books and how they ended. So I think it's going into I Love You. Then we have Die magische Geheimkiste. I think it's called that. I'm not sure. This book is called Im Tal der Dinosaurier. I just know it's a series for children to learn about stuff. This book in particular is to learn more about the dinosaurs, and I like the books as a child. I'm not sure. Should I put it in I honestly can't remember or I Like You? Because is there so much to remember about a book about dinosaurs? Well, I do not remember much, so this book here is probably the book I read the most, or reread the most. I think I already read this book 5 times, maybe more. It's called Schneewittchenfalle, and it's a Snow White retelling, a modern retelling, and I know I really loved it. And I also remember a lot about it because I read it so much. So it has to go into I Love You. Then we have 13 Chairs by Dave Shelton. And this book, I really love this book because this book is like a short story collection without really being a short story collection. And it was the perfect level between thrilling and scaring for me when I read it, because I wasn't quite an adult yet, but I also wasn't a child anymore. So maybe I was a teenager or a young adult. I think it was teenager, but I really enjoyed this book. And I also gave it to my mom to read it. She also enjoyed it. And I think that's another 6 stars book. After that, we have another children book, Hexe Lilly im Fußballfieber. And I honestly can't remember. I know I had a friend's book. You know, where all your friends write something inside. I had a book from her. About the book itself, I don't remember much. Ronja Räubertochter. Again, I don't really remember. Because my childhood, it's gone. It disappeared from my brain. It has been a long time since then, so I think that explains it very well. The next book is You Matter by Diman. It's poetry, and again, it's not really good poetry. It's very motivational and Instagrammy again. So it's gonna go here. Then we have, I forgot what it's named in English. No, in German it's Mörderische Renovierung by Cantero. I'm not sure, I will just put it on a screen. But I know this book is about renovation and about a boy and a girl who are friends. And when I remember correctly, the girl is mute and her perspective is told through letters, or at least there's letters part of the book. And I never got far into the book. I think I picked it up twice. I never finished it. I don't think I even came far. They're not fancy. This book, it's a little bit silly to put it in here because it's just a book about suing, how to sue right. But still, it's a book I read, so. Did I love it? No. Was it helpful? So I'm just gonna say, I like you. Well, actually, I would say it had potential because it didn't even help me half as much as I thought it could. Then we have Panic. No, I had that from the library as a child because back then I went to the library a lot with my mom. Now she doesn't want to go anymore, so I don't go anymore because I don't want to pay it and she also doesn't want to pay it, so now I just buy books. This book is about a game. I think it's like a dare game. You have to do what it says or something is going to happen. Something in that direction. And although I can't really remember, I remember liking it. Then we have, well, let's start with the first one. We have Love Virtually by Danielle Gluttowa. Another school book I had to read. This is also the most recent one. And did I like it? It was fine for a school book. I wouldn't have read it if I didn't have to. So that's kind of hard. I'm still gonna put it in It Had Potential. And I'm also gonna put the second one in there because they should have been one book. And then they probably would still end up here. Because they had potential, but it didn't go somewhere interesting. But also, maybe it didn't need to go somewhere that interesting, because it really is just a love story. Not more, not less. Then we have Sakulum Cyclone. That's probably Latin, but I don't speak that, so I don't know how to say it. And this book was from the library again. And this book also probably is the closest I've ever gotten to an emo phase. And I remember it's about the boy, and I think he had a twin or a brother or something that died. And it takes place on graveyards, and it's a little bit dark and mysterious. And I read it once and I liked it. Then I went back to the library and forgot that I had read it and read it again. And I still don't remember that much, but I do know that I liked it. Because if I didn't, I probably wouldn't have finished the second time. Then we have Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. And I read the Six of Crows duology first. Then I watched the TV show and then I read the books. And yes, I do like the books, but I think she got a lot better as a writer. And I also think I like the show more. But still, I liked it. And then we have After Love by Tanya Byron? I'm not sure how to say her name. This book I would highly recommend. And now I need to figure out if it's a 6 stars or just I love you. I really enjoyed this book, but where do I put it? I think it's just I love you, but it's very close, so it's probably here. Then we have Heartstopper, and I put them all together as one, even though there are 4 volumes, a 5th one coming. But I think it wouldn't be fair to rate them separately because they are one big story, and it's getting really good in book 3 and 4, and because of that it's a 6 stars for me. Then we have Freddie Mercury, A Legendary Voice. I really enjoyed this book, but it's just a lot of information and background and kind of like a memoir, but he obviously didn't write it, someone else did. And I don't think I would put a book like that in 6 stars, but I did love it. Then we have Love Her Wild by Oedipus, and that's poetry again. And I don't remember finishing it, so I think I didn't. But the big reason for that is because I accidentally bought this book in German and I wanted to have it in English. So maybe I will read it one day if it's available in English. Then Looking for Alaska. That also was a school book, and out of all the school books I liked that one the most because I think I honestly also would have read it in my free time. But I also remember that I really was the only person that read this book. And I think it's kind of sad because, as I said, I really liked this book. And I also remember a lot of this book. But to this day, I don't completely understand Alaska and what really happened. But I do love it. Milk and Honey. That book is probably the book that got me into poetry, and for that alone, it has to go into I Love You. Then Cursed by Thomas Wheeler. There again, I watched the TV show and then I read the book. And for this one, it truly doesn't matter which one you do because they're so similar. This book also doesn't read completely like a book. In my opinion, it reads more like a screenplay with some beautiful illustrations in between. And there's like maybe 3 pages that didn't happen in the show. So, I'm not sure if he's gonna write a second part. I think the show should have gotten a second season, but it was cancelled. So I don't know how to rate it, because did I like the show? Yes. Did I like the book? Not as much, because it was like the show. And I think I just expected a little bit more, a little bit different. So I think it has to go into it had potential. But yeah. Then The Sun and Her Flowers. I also really liked that book. And I think again it has to go into I Love You. Eines Tages Baby by Julia Engelmann. She did a poetry slam, One Day Baby, that I really liked. And then I bought all of her books that were out and I realized I don't like to read it. And I don't like most of the poems as much as I like the one she did a poetry slam for. So again, it had potential, but that's it. Know My Name by Chanel Miller, a memoir and a really important book. And I'm not gonna say much about it, just read it, please. Just read it. 46 Questions That Changed My Mind About You by Vicki Grant. This book has kind of a deeper meaning to me because I went to a bookshop and had a short internship there, and they didn't give me the job in the end, but on the last day they told me I can pick a book, and I picked this book, and it's a love story, and it's one of the few love stories I've read, and I really enjoyed this book. So it's going into I Love You, because isn't that fitting for a love story? Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I think we all know who the cursed child is. The child that read this book is the cursed child, and it should have never existed. And Harry would have never said those things to his son. And I also don't really want to talk about you know who. So, moving on. Laura's Stern. I remember some things from this book, but they are a little bit confusing because the things I remember don't make quite the story, so I don't really know what was the story. I just know Laura's mom played cello and she wasn't there on that evening, and her dad and her made bread with cheese and tomatoes and salt. That's all I remember. It obviously has to go there. Isola by Isabel Abedi. Again, a German book. Again, I don't think there's an English version of that. This book is about a group of friends who are on an island. I'm not sure anymore if they wanted to be there or if they had to be there. But yeah, they're on this island and people get killed. And she also has a boyfriend. And the plot twist is an evil twin brother. And I don't know how to feel about it. Now at least. Back then I thought it was interesting. So it's going into I Like You, I think, because at some point I did like it. Then we have Hex to Lily again, and something with school in the title. I think there's, again, no English version of that, and again, I can't really remember that much. Then we have A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, and honestly, I didn't have high expectations for this book. I just wanted to get back into fantasy, and I fell so in love with this book. I don't even know why, because I think there are more people that don't like it as much as people that do like it, but I really love it. And I'm just really excited to get back into fantasy because of this book. So it's going into I Love You. Then Homebody by Rupi Kaur. Poetry again, and I did like it. Did I love it? I guess I did. I think I did love it. Then King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. That comes after the Six of Crows duology, and it's about Nikolai. And I did start it. I never finished it. I think someday I will, but currently I'm not in the mood for it. So, did not fancy. They both die at the end. Again, pure definition of there was potential, but with that title, you should have been more interesting. Because the title spoils everything. So, next book. One of Us is Lying. I do remember liking this book. And also this book was inspired by The Breakfast Club. And I also really enjoyed this movie. So it's going into I Love You. But I really need to reread it to read the second book and also to watch the TV show. The Midnight Library. When I read it, I really loved it. When I read the description again, it made me realize how boring the book actually was. So, it had potential, but was meh. Vampire Sisters. Eine Freundin zum Anbeißen. I think I like this book, but I'm not even sure which one of the series I read. I think it was this one, but I could be wrong, and I also don't really remember what happens. Then we have Harry Potter. Again, the name who should not be named. I did really enjoy Harry Potter as a child, because I think like for most people, it were the books that got them into reading, but I think there were better books. But still, for my childhood and stuff, I'm gonna say I like you, but I'm only talking about the story. Only about the story, not about the name that's standing there. We don't talk about her. Then Crooked Kingdom. Then we have to talk about Six of Crows first. And I know there are the people that hyped this book to death, and the people that were too hyped to like this book, or just didn't like it at all. I'm one of the people that would hype it to death, but only because I read this book before the hype. I never heard about the author, I never heard about the book. I had no idea what it was about. And I think only because of that I loved it as much as I did. Because with all the things I know now and I've seen and I've heard and read, if I had to read this book again without ever having read it before the hype, I don't think I would love it as much as I do. Because I think I truly love it as much because I didn't know anything about it. And it's also one of the books I like to reread. Because maybe you don't know, I don't like to reread that much. I would rather read a new book, but for this one, I'm making exceptions. And then we come to Crooked Kingdom. You know, I just said how much I love the first book. As much as I love the first, that much I was disappointed in the second. Yes, I was excited to see the characters again. Yes, I was excited to see how the story continues. But something was missing. I don't know, there's just so much, or there are so many pages where nothing really happens and then everything happens at once. But I still like it, kind of, because I really, really love the characters. But I think it still has to go into it had potential. But it gets the highest spot because I still think it was probably the best from all the others. In Carcaron by Catherine Fisher. It's a fantasy book. It's about a boy and a girl, and one of them is in a prison. I think the boy is in the prison and the girl is a secret princess. And I remember really loving this book. But I always found the ending a little bit strange because it was a very open ending, and I just only discovered that there are more books, that it's actually a book series, and I never knew that. But I really loved that book when I was little. The Invisible Life by Ada LaRue. Again, too much hype and a lot of vibes, not a lot of plot, and so much potential. History is All You Left Me. First time I read it, I loved it. After reading They Both Die at the End and some other love stories, there are so many better ones. Again, it had potential, but you know. Tales of the Peculiar by Ransom Riggs. That book is kind of funny because I read this book and thought it was just some kind of fairy tale book without realizing it was part of a series. I completely did not realize. But the book I did like. I think I actually loved it because I had a fairy tale phase where I read all the fairy tales. The old ones, the modernized ones, horror, fairy tale books, everything I could find. So, Fracture by Megan Miranda. I also remember really liking this book. Again, there's a second book I didn't know about. This book follows a girl who is drowning or has already drowned, and the premise is something like you can go that and that long underwater and then happens that. You can go that and that long underwater and then happens that. And she was drowning for 11 minutes, and normally I think you die after 10. At least that's what the book says. And after she wakes up again, she can sense when someone's dying, and she meets a boy who also has that, who can also sense when someone's dying. And I remember also loving this book. I think that's also the first book I ever annotated because I highlighted one sentence. But I really don't remember what the sentence said. Then Hexalily and Something About a Vampire. Again, I don't really remember. It's a children's book. Then this book, What I'm Seeing Without You. I did like it, but I didn't love it. And I remember some things, but I don't remember everything. I remember it's about the girl who texts with a boy online and they haven't met. And someday he just stops texting her. First she thinks he has a girlfriend or isn't interested anymore or something like that. But then we find out he actually died. And after some weeks she gets messages again, but it isn't him. But we don't know that right away. Maybe I just spoiled the whole book. I'm not sure. I did like it, but I don't think I would consider, or I would say I loved it. This book, on the other hand, I did love. All That's Left in the World by Eric J. Brown. It's about two boys in a dystopian world. It's a queer book, and I just really, really enjoyed this book. It also is a lot about road trips and surviving, and I think it's a 6 stars for me. Berg and the Hot Dog Trail. It took me a long time to even find this book again, because all I remembered was it was about a dog and a hot dog, and Google was very confused. But yes, this book, again, I can't really remember, because it's a children's book and it's been a while since I've been a child. Das böse Buch. This book still kind of scares me a little bit, because I remember I borrowed it from the library, and this book has sentences on it like, do not open, throw it in the ocean, do not read it, don't even consider reading it, do not dare to tell someone about the book, stuff like that. And it might not be scary to you, it also wouldn't be scary now to me, but I was a child when I read it. And the book disappeared, because I'm 100% sure that I didn't give it back to the library, but still somehow the book disappeared. And to this day, I don't know where this book went. And it's kind of scary, but you know. So where would I put it? Why do I not have a tier for trauma? Good question. I mean, like, did I love it? Kind of, but it also kind of freaked me out. I don't remember that much. Or, you know, I do remember, but there were a lot of questions and puzzles and things you had to guess and stuff like that. So I'm gonna say I'll like you, I think, but we both know I'm just very scared of this book. Schattenseite by Jonas Ems. This book is about a school and different point of views. And there's a website that's telling all their secrets, and it reminds me of One of Us is Lying. And when I compare the two, I like One of Us is Lying better, but I still like this book. So it's gonna go into I Like You, I think. Tagebuch von Pia. That book is very interesting because it has very scribbly pages. It truly is like diary entries from a 12-year-old, because that's what the book is about. And there are doodles, drawings, scribbles, handwritten stuff, pictures, everything. But that's also the reason why I never finished it, because some pages are so hard to read, because the handwriting might be smudged, or the scribbles over the text, or I can't read the handwriting. But I really thought it was an interesting concept. I just never finished it. Then we have Lost You by Helene Beck. And this book was very, very good. It's a thriller about motherhood, and I don't really want to say too much in case you want to read it. And I would give it 6 stars if I could. Then The Wicked Sister by Karen Dion. This book is also a thriller, but it has fantasy elements, and I don't know where they came from. Honestly, I have no idea where they came from. Maybe from the trauma the main character went through, but it's never explained like that. The fantasy is never explained. And to me it also was very obvious what was happening and who's the bad guy. So again, I would say it had potential. Then we have Warrior Cats, and I think there are maybe 20 books, or there were 20 books when I read it, and I read every single one of them because a friend of me had the whole box set. Like, every series had her own box set, and she had all the box sets, and I read all of them. And I think that alone should tell you that I really love these books. And I'm still trying to find them again because I want to do a reread of them. But I want to find them secondhand because they're kind of expensive. Especially because there are so many books of them. Michael in Löhneberger by Astrid Lindgren. Again, a children's book. And again, I don't remember that much. Maybe I should do a rereading children favorites. I think that could be interesting. Then the next book is My Year of Rest and Relaxation. And oh my god, do I hate this book. Reading that book is giving me depression. Honestly, because of that book, my depression has depression now. And also, because of that much depression and nothingness, I did never finish this book. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This book I also didn't finish, but it's also not that long ago that I started it, so there's still hope. But with old books, I just have a hard time to get into the writing, to understand what world I'm just living in, because I don't know the world how it was 50 years ago or more. And yeah, I just need to get to know it better. And then I will probably enjoy this book, because I know a lot of people say that's their favorite classic. I know it's queer, and I really want to know what happens. I already got spoiled in school, but I'm still hoping it wasn't completely spoiled. I hope I can still find something new in there. Again, it's one of the books I still have hope for. Then we have Holes. Is there anyone that hasn't read or seen it? It would be quite surprising to me. But again, this was a book we had to read for school, and I really don't remember what happens. The Lie She Never Told. I also did not finish it because it has a point of view I don't like. I think it's first person, and I'm not sure if I've ever read something, or if I read a book like that in first person. Maybe I did, but somehow the way this book did it, I didn't like it. Or maybe I just didn't like it in the moment. I haven't given up yet. Maybe I will read it someday. We will see. Then we have Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. And I'm sad to say it, that's kind of hard. I could be really harsh, but I don't want to be that harsh. I would need a tier between How Dare You Kill a Tree and It Had Potential. I know it's the first book, or one of the first book where Nick and Charlie get their story, but after reading Heartstopper, I don't think this book makes much sense. But yeah, I'm not gonna be that harsh. It deserves better than the books in How Dare You Kill a Tree. And I'm not that mad about it for existing. So we're gonna put it in It Had Potential. Even though I'm not really sure if it had. It probably did if it was different. Again, I don't want to say that much because this book isn't even that long. So just see for yourself. Or don't, because I wouldn't really recommend it. Der Räuber Hotzenklotz? Something like that. It's a children's book again, and again, I don't really remember. Solitaire by Alice Oseman. This is her first book, and I think you can tell that it's her first book. But I still liked it, but I guessed a lot of things right away. I'm still gonna put it in I like you, I think, because it did a lot more than this one. Then we have Herr Jensen steigt aus. And this book is kind of insane, because this book follows a man who loses all sense of reality and gets very, very paranoid. And it left me very, very confused. And for this book, I'm not ashamed to be harsh, because How Dare You Kill a Tree? Then we have Mace Runner. I really love Mace Runner. Doesn't matter if I'm speaking about the books or the movies, I really love Mace Runner. And it's going into 6 stars. Then we have Mutos Academy. I couldn't find the English covers, but whatever. And it's about Gwen, who has the power that when she touches someone, she can see their memories. And she's going to school for mythical children, I guess, or magical children. But it has a lot of mythology inside. And I thought it was very interesting to follow her journey, but not to follow her, because I think she's a really unlikable character, and her love interests are on and off all the time, and it gets a little bit annoying, but still, overall, I liked it. Then, Till Eulenspiegel, again, a children's book, and again, I don't really remember that much. Then, The Ghost of Canterville by Oscar Wilde. That actually was the first book I read from him, or started from him, because that one I actually finished, the other one I didn't. We already discussed that. And again, I had a problem to getting into the story, but once I did, I really liked this book. But still, some things about the ghost and the girl are a little bit disturbing to me, because I don't know what happened, and my mind is a strange place. So it's going into I love you or I like you. I think I love you, because it subverted the traditional ghost story, and I'm here for it. Then we have The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and because of that book, I think I never want to read another Fitzgerald book again, ever again in my life. So clearly we all know where this goes. How Dare You Kill a Tree? Then we have The Ruins, and this book gave me nightmares, but kind of in a good way, because this book, even though really scary for me when I read it, I still really loved it and appreciated it for what it did. So even though I'm still sometimes scared to think about it, when the memories suddenly come to mind randomly, I still love it. And last but not least, 13 Reasons Why. And I'm not sure if I watched the show first or read the book first, but I'm very sure that I like the book more. But do I love it? I don't think I do. I think I just like it. Here are all the books I have ever read, or at least all the books I can remember that I have ever read. I think it's around 100 books, a little less. Here are they. And I just realized how many books I don't remember. And I think I really want to do a video about that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next.